What's up, everyone? Oftentimes in conversations with non-vegans, the topic of culture or tradition will come up as an excuse, and this isn't exclusive to veganism either. Culture or tradition is used all of the time as a justification to do many awful things, not just killing and eating animals. And there are actually two components to this excuse, but let me know in the comments, do you actually believe this? Should culture or traditions dictate our morality? That's what we're getting into today, but first let me welcome you to Vegan Yak, where I yak about all things vegan. If you're new here and you're looking for more information about veganism, then make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so that way next week when another video comes out and I'm yakking about something else vegan, you'll be the first to know. And I've got even more videos coming tackling even more non-vegan excuses, so subscribe to see those for sure. As far as this tradition/culture excuse goes, there are actually two parts. The first claim is that an act is moral in the culture because it's a part of that existing culture. And the second claim that people make is that by getting rid of a certain component of a tradition, in this case exploiting animals for food, other products, or entertainment, that it will actually destroy the tradition or culture. So let's start with the first claim in question. Does something being a part of someone's culture or traditions make it moral? This usually comes up when someone talks about eating an animal that people in our culture love, like eating a cat or eating dogs. The first response from people is usually that of disgust and outrage. You know, people in our culture mostly think that eating dogs is immoral. However, after some quick thought questioning, they realize that there are people in other cultures that do this. So their choice here is either to call out an entire culture for doing something that is immoral, or they want to bend a bit and say, well, it's different for them because that's their culture, so it's okay for them. You know, they say they were raised that way and in their culture, so for them it isn't immoral. But again, let me ask you, do you think that if you are raised a certain way in a certain culture, then morality is different for you? If you do, let me bring up different moral situations and see if you still hold that view. In previous times, slavery was very much a part of our culture. It was for hundreds of years. Does that mean that slavery is moral for certain cultures? There are other parts of the world where female genital mutilation is a part of the current culture and traditions, does that make it moral? What about something closer to home? Abortion is legal here in the United States. What are your thoughts there? This video is clearly not about whether abortion is right or wrong, but it is undeniably a part of our culture and even legal. So if you think that abortion is immoral, but you also hold the belief that culture dictates morality, then it may be time for you to reevaluate your positions. By all means, if you have a case for why you think one of these things is a moral act, then feel free to present your case, but the thought that it's acceptable because it's a part of someone's culture seems to be pretty weak reasoning. The problem here too is that you'd have to define culture. How long does something have to exist in order to be considered acceptable moral culture or tradition? How many people need to be in that culture? What's to stop someone in America from creating a small subset of our culture and form a new religion centered around human sacrifice? Should that be allowed because it's their new culture? If you base morality on what a culture says is acceptable, then you need to define how long a culture needs to exist and what other attributes it must have in order to be a culture in the first place. Hopefully you can see some of the issues with conflating morality with culture or traditions. I don't equate something being a part of someone's culture or tradition to it being moral because of the serious ramifications that you'd have to accept. And the same goes for animal agriculture. I don't think that eating dogs all of a sudden becomes moral because a group of people say it is, regardless of that group's geographical location, size, or length of existence. And again, by all means, if you have other reasoning for why you think killing and eating a dog would be okay when you don't need to in order to survive, then you can always present the case, but this video is of course just about the tradition culture excuse. Now, this is also the same thing for your traditions too, which brings me to the second claim in this excuse, which is that people think we should potentially not do something because we might lose tradition or culture if we take away a certain aspect of that tradition or culture. What would Thanksgiving be without a dead turkey? Well, it'd be Thanksgiving, just better. Traditions and culture don't have to be completely demolished because there won't be dead animals as a part of it anymore. My family still celebrates Thanksgiving, and we still make a special meal that we don't make the rest of the year, including stuffing, cornbread, mashed potatoes, and even sometimes vegan turkey. We still watch the parade and make our Christmas list. We still gather around the table, enjoy each other's company, and say, what we're thankful for. Literally, the tradition and culture has not, been changed, except it's vegan turkey instead of a dead animal. Oh, and the other thing that has changed is that, we don't have to cook anything for 4 or 5 hours. So again, better. Traditions and culture don't have to be lost, but instead adapted. And even if traditions did have to be abandoned entirely, it still wouldn't mean that we shouldn't do it. I mean, when we abolished slavery, we needed to get rid of some traditions or parts of our culture, and they were arguably pretty awful. So I don't think anyone today is looking back and going, wow, I really miss that culture. Well, I mean, some do, but not most, hopefully. Some traditions and culture are not worth saving if it contains practices that cause an immense amount of harm, and eating animals does just that. It causes an immense amount of harm to the animals, humans, and the environment. So I'm not concerned about keeping certain culture or continuing to partake in traditions, especially if we, in the future, won't even have a planet to have those cultures on anyways. What's also weird about this claim is that it seems as though the person is either implying that traditions and culture should never be lost or changed, or that every change is moral. I mean, if you think that culture and traditions should never change, then what have we been doing all of our lives as human species? Because cultures certainly have been changing. And if you think that they just shouldn't change now, are you really implying that the world is perfect now and that we shouldn't change anything about our culture or traditions anywhere around the world, again including things like female genital mutilation? I mean, and if you're implying every culture is moral because it's their culture and every culture changes and can change at any point in time, then you're just saying that everything is moral. If you want to see my responses to other common non-vegan excuses, then check out the playlist on your screen now, or you can watch the other recommended video. Don't forget to subscribe as well, and if you wouldn't mind, like and share this video with some friends, that'd be nice. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stop looking at what you can't do and start looking at what you can do. Thanks.